Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to Lean Green TV. This is a show where every single week you get a chance to hear from a licensed dietitian. This is Heather Borders from Kailo Nutrition. How you doing, Heather?
I'm great. How are you doing, Corey?
I'm pretty awesome. I'm peppy. I'm trying to be peppy and happy. And I think that today this is a subject that I want to talk about because I feel like if you are not living with diabetes or you don't know anyone in your circle that has diabetes, or you might, but you might not fully understand what they go through. So I just wanted to take a few minutes. Again, this is that show where we get a chance to take a few minutes to talk about a health topic that you might want to learn a little bit more about. And so I guess let's start with that, Heather. What exactly is diabetes? I know there's type 1 and type 2, right?
Yep, absolutely. So there's two kinds, like you said, type 1 and type 2, and they're completely different animals. So type 1 diabetes is when the pancreas does not secrete enough insulin or any insulin. And then type 2 is when the pancreas secretes insulin, however, it's kind of fallen down on the job. And so I think it's kind of worth it to explain what insulin's role is in the body and how type 1 or type 2 affects the body and how we live day to day.
Yeah, I think, insulin is something that's incredibly important to us because it helps regulate the body, right?
Right, exactly.
So explain what happens. Like, let's say, you eat a piece of, candy or something, or even a piece of, whole food, plant-based food, a fresh apple or something like that. What happens with the body? How does it react with insulin and what goes on there?
It's a great question, and I think that's absolutely key. So when we eat any food, doesn't matter what it is, our body's going to break it down into carbohydrates, protein, and fat. And when it breaks down carbohydrate portion of whatever food we're eating, it's going to break it down into glucose. And then the glucose is going to go ultimately in the bloodstream. And from there, it's insulin's job to basically start the process for getting glucose to go into our cells, specifically cells like muscle cells and liver cells. And so what happens is again, if for type 2 diabetes, we have the pancreas is secreting insulin, but it's sort of falling down on a job, then it won't actually start that process of getting glucose going into the cell. And if we have type 1 diabetes, then we don't even have insulin. So it's just going to not start the process. And in both cases, what ultimately ends up is glucose builds up in the bloodstream. And so you have this chronic increase of glucose in the bloodstream. And ultimately, that's going to cause issues. And you're going to start seeing a lot of the symptoms that you see with what we call hyperglycemia. And so you may start urinating more, you may start getting thirsty more, that sort of thing. And so it's really important for our pancreas to work, secrete insulin, and for insulin to actually act on the cells to let glucose into the cells.
Good stuff. Well, hey everybody, that's a snapshot for you. If you want to learn more, of course, you can visit Heather at Kailo Nutrition. You can find her at Kailo Nutrition on many of her socials. And that is a brief snapshot for you of type 1 and type 2. Now, Heather, type 1 is reversible with lifestyle changes, right?
No, actually, that would be the other way around. So it's going to be type 2 is the one that is reversible with lifestyle changes.
Okay.
However, type 1, even though type 1 diabetics will forever be dependent on insulin, you can actually affect the amount of insulin that you need with lifestyle changes. And the goal would be ultimately to take just as much insulin as you need and not enough and not more than you need. And so by watching what you eat and, again, being conscious of what we eat in our lifestyle, you can definitely adjust the insulin needs for type 1. And for type 2, you can most definitely decrease the need for insulin if they are type insulin dependent, and decrease, if not eliminate, any medications that they're on. I would like to just throw in one more key tidbit here. Most of the time you hear from the media and popular what's out there in the on the interwebs and sometimes even from clinicians, the common thought process and the focus is on carbohydrates and decreasing carbohydrates. I really believe that there's a lot of science out there showing that there's a lot more focus should be put on the fat intake. And what we're seeing is the whole reason why we have what we call insulin resistance, the whole part where the insulin is falling down on the job, is because there's these little lipid droplets, these little fat droplets within the muscle cells and within the liver cells that are kind of gumming up the lock, if you will. And when it does that, then the insulin kind of gets jammed in the lock and can't start the process of letting glucose in. So what you were asking in terms of lifestyle factors is when someone starts following this low fat, whole foods, plant-based diet, they naturally decrease the amount of fat in their dietary intake, and that can actually affect the amount of lipid content within the cell, or the amount of fat within the cell, and therefore start making insulin more sensitive.
Sweet.
And yeah, the last thought is exercise. In this case, exercise can actually be a substantial benefit to someone who is insulin resistant, and that can also help with starting the process of getting glucose into the cell so that we can live very healthy and our body can process carbohydrates naturally and healthy.
You know, folks, you've heard it before. Diet and exercise, this is lifestyle and fitness, lifestyle and exercise. Make sure you are incorporating whole food, plant-based foods into your diet, into your daily diet for your life. This is something that you don't have to be 100% vegan, you don't have to be 100% plant-based, but you do need to be eating plant-based foods most of the time. And keep that body moving. Hey, until next time, this is Cory and Heather. Heather's from Kailo Nutrition, and you guys know me from Lean Green Dad. We'll see you next time.